Thank Dr. Hugh Cormican, CEO of Certain, and Elaine Armstrong, Head of Marketing, for inviting me to this conference and for getting us all in this beautiful spot in Queensland. I should say that I've enjoyed the lovely Irish accent for the last 2 days, and having accent myself with you to my Egyptian background, I can't complain. I think if I go to Ireland, I will just fit in, you know. I'll talk today about the big data and the opportunities, the challenges, and the better future that we are expecting from it. I hope that my talk today will be like the thread or the string that we can put all the pearls and jewels we have listened to the last couple of days together, because many of the aspects that's been covered yesterday and today, I will touch on it and maybe go into some more details and give examples. So I'll start my presentation by having a general look about big data and then go to more specifics and its application in medicine. So this is the overview. What's big data? Why it's important? And big data and artificial intelligence. Big data, what does it mean for patients, for payers, for device makers, for pharma? And also examples of the current application. Also, I'll talk about how wearable devices poised to transform the way medicine, is going in the future, and how our smartphone devices are going to play a great role in that. And then we'll talk about the opportunities and the risks and the fear that will come as outcome of that. Just to show you the importance of the era we are starting now in pathology. This is just, if you look at big data jobs, you find like 470 something. If you look at data scientist, maybe 1,000 something. If you look for scientist, 35 jobs. You look for pathologist, even less. So that shows you the shift you are having in the industry. It is not the traditional clinical setting we used to have. There is now many powers driving these changes, beyond even the Ministry of Health, beyond our traditional way of thinking or for doing things. So what's big data? The big data term just described because of its large volume of data. We cannot contain this data in our normal conventional storage system in laptop or computers, or even limited number of servers. Big data needs huge amount of storage capacity, and this is coming now very cheap. If you look at the storage cost 15, 20 years ago, it's now coming very cheap and very affordable. Hence, the exploring of big data and the leap we're going to have in the future as outcome of that. So initially, if you talk to any one of the CEOs, when you talk big data, he will tell you, isn't that just the analytics we used to have? The answer is yes and no. Why is that? The analytics, for example, as many of us using it, when you analyze your data, for example, when you get your financial report, when you get the chart to buy, when you get the analysis based on your data every month, that's analytics. So the analytics goes to a certain set of data, scrutinize it, you can put query, and then assess the outcome. Big data is different from that. And remember the 3 V's. The 3 V's is the difference between analytics and big data. The volume, the velocity, and the variety. Normal analytics doesn't have that. So the volume of the data is huge. The variety and the capacity of it, cannot be contained in a normal system. So remember the 3 V's that separate the big data from analytics. I would like also to explain at the same time the difference between data science, because it's a very complementary term that you will face when you read about these things. And data science doesn't deal with the storage. Data science has to do with data curation cleansing the data, stratifying it, and designing smart algorithm that can go inside and predict what's going to happen and give you more in depth. So we have to distinguish analytics, big data, and data science. There is another term is being used which is called real world data. I'll come to that in my next slides. So basically, the big data at the beginning, it just thought it's going to only give us better decision and better business moves. But actually this list will increase, and I'll show you how. There is a common saying in big data says it's not the amount of data that's important, it's what you're going to do with it. Do you agree with that? I personally don't. I think it is just as important to have a big data so you can make informative decision and solid outcome, and also what you make out of it is just as important. So I think the two components are equally important, not one and at the expense of the other. We can take data from any source, analyze it, and then you will get all these things from big data. You get strategic, smart decision, strategic business movement, cost reduction, time reduction, and the new product development. That's where big data comes very, very attractive to manufacturers. Artificial intelligence. Our traditional tools that we used from day to day to analyze data is not suited for it. It is something that doctors, scientists, or pathology cannot do. We don't have the capacity, we don't have the expertise to do it. And maybe that's why we get a bit frustrated when we look at this, new information coming, because we used to deal from things from clinical aspects only, or from limited LI system that we use in our pathology. The picture is going to change. We are going to step out from our comfort zone and prepare ourselves for the next era in pathology. So, as I said, the volume of the data is very large, and we can get this data from different sources and analyze all of it and derive value from it. There is too many hidden signals in this big data that we are not aware of. We don't know even it does exist. But with the application of big data, we can see that, and I'll give examples later on. So when we combine big data with artificial intelligence, that will even give big data a bigger or larger role to play. Because remember, artificial intelligence is when you design an algorithm that dive inside this data and measure the outcome. So it doesn't only predict what's going to happen, it measures the outcome of the prediction, and based on the outcome, it gets even smarter. So that's why artificial intelligence is only going to get better. The more information you feed, the more outcome it detects, the better decision artificial intelligence will make. And by adding the data and putting the right algorithm inside it, you can just imagine the potential of that. There is no human brain, or doesn't matter how many expertise we have, the machine will do better than all of us combined together. That is a fact. You don't do mistakes. The computational activity or capability of the system is huge. We cannot do that. So as big data is maturing, the term itself might change. Like actually what we have seen now with the pharma company, they are talking about real world data. They don't use the term big data, and I'll explain the difference. If you think we are talking about something that's not happening now, I don't think we should think that way. In the future, autonomous cars, what they call them AV, this is how we're going to drive in the future. There is no steering wheel. There was a meeting last month, they call it the governor meeting in USA, and the CEO of Tesla was there, and it is not what he said in the interview, it's what he did not say. The artificial intelligence can have many applications, and you can actually in the future bring a whole country to its knees if you can manipulate the system. In the future, the car will be driven like, automatically by artificial intelligence. See the steering wheel here? In 20 years' time, they think there's going to be no steering wheel. You don't need it. You will only have a driver license as if you have a boat license or you have a horse. It's only going to be a hobby if you're going to go on the weekend and drive your car manually. So every single state now in Australia, they have some sort of artificial intelligence. If you look here, New South Wales started from this, I think last month, having autonomous vehicles in the Olympic Park in Sydney to take people around. That's already started. Rio Tinto, the giant, they invested in all the trucks that's moving, the raw material. It's all it has no driver. It's self-automated. They invested 483 million infrastructure to design 40 driverless train. Why would they spend this money? Because the productivity would be $5 billion. So you can see the potential. It's not only affecting medical field, it's going all over the place. And we're going to be beneficiary of this. So, if you can look at the previous slide when I just showed two outcome of the big data, you can see now the list is getting bigger and bigger. You can do all these things if you combine big data with artificial intelligence. And that looks very attractive to users and buyers, and for the also pharmaceutical companies. As you can see, Google, Amazon, and Facebook, this technology actually is not old. Actually, iPad came only 2010. Facebook, I think was about 2006, 2004, sorry, Twitter 2006. So there is a lot of maturity in the infrastructure and the algorithm that's been used in this area that can be just applied in medicine. And they have done this in many experimentation. They applied this algorithm in medical data and they got very good results. So we are going to benefit from that. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just going to apply what's in the market, what everyone is using. This algorithm is very well designed, very well suited, and even it gets better when this algorithm designed by people in the field, in the specialty, with clinical input. So the role of the big data in medicine, we're going to have a better health system. We can have better predictive models. The buzzword now is precision medicine, because we are not going to wait for the patient to deteriorate and then intervene. Would be very costly at the time. We want to intervene very early, and that's why predictive models will be very important. We will be used in not only in diagnosis, the patient will get called ahead of things to get managed, and that will save the health system lots of money. So it is not going to be happening overnight. It's going to be some sort of evolution happening. It's going to happen gradually. So we have to be prepared for it. We have to be accepting it, because there's no way out. There is lots of driving forces around us that's pushing for this to happen, as I will explain in the slides to come. When we apply big data with artificial intelligence, we will ask questions we didn't even dare to ask. We will ask questions we didn't even dare to ask in the past. We will find associations that we even didn't think about, as I will show in some of the examples. It's very important to get the right mix of expertise. Why is that? because it's so easy to mix causation with association. So it does not take that much to make that mistake. That's why you need different panel of experts when you design this algorithm and when you look at the data. But once the hard work is done, then the outcome is there forever. So what does big data mean to patient? It means to patient that the patient will be more proactive in their, they're not going to be on the receiving side all the time. They will understand better what the disease means and what they need to do. Most of the data will be passively collected. Every one of us is a data generator. And most of the data in the future will be collected passively, or what they call low friction. I believe in the future collecting blood will be very invasive and would be only done for very specialized testing. So, having said that, I'll show you some practical examples. The reason driving big data application medicine, because the expectation the system will deliver low number of doctor visits, the number of times you get sick will be less, and the number of times that progressed into unwanted state of the disease will be prevented. You will be looking at your health as you're looking at it in the dashboard. All the information will be readily available. We would not in the future need physician to interpret the results for us. You will look at it, you will know what does it mean. Imagine some of the example I'm going to show you. If you apply big data with artificial intelligence, you can reach 85% success. If we combine that with genomics, you can just imagine the outcome. There will be no doubt in the diagnosis whatsoever if we combine the power of genomics with big data with artificial intelligence. I would like to explain something very important here, real-world data. You know, I talked about analytics. What does it mean? Big data. What does it mean? What does data science mean? Real-world data, you're going to hear this word a lot. It's about picking up a population randomly, doesn't matter where it came from, as long as there is outcome. The patient was treated and there is an outcome. We are not talking here about the conventional randomized, controlled randomized trials here. We are talking about any raw data that can be collected with an outcome. There is two conditions for this data. The first is not being manipulated in any way or form or shape. It's collected as it is with an outcome. And also the way it was stored has not been tampered with. We're talking about raw data. Patient information, like which is available now. It's called the medical record number, or EMR. When you apply that genomics with that, that will resolve many of our problems because our knowledge about many diseases is very poor. Even with familial hyperlipidemia that we heard about in the previous presentation with Dr. Glenn, it has not been diagnosed very easily with applying smart algorithm in the system. So, when using big data, it's going to change the way we do things. We're going to undiagnose the patient very easily. Patient with rare disease will have big advantage. We think rare disease are rare. They are not actually rare. There is about here 35 million people worldwide have rare disease. 7,000 rare diseases have already been identified. 50% are children. 40% of patients are misdiagnosed initially. They require average 7.3 physicians to see before the final diagnosis is being made. And takes average about 4.8 years. I can tell you this is going to become history. When we apply big data, artificial intelligence, genomics, this will be diagnosed straight away. So when you look at rare disease now, we are like finding a needle in a haystack. How are we going to find it? So here, increased availability of real-world data and advances in pattern recognition techniques that will make the rare disease algorithm structured in a way to find all these patients. When we refine our real-world data, which has symptoms, diagnosis, treatment, history, lab test, and more, routinely collected, all this going to be collected together, and that's already embedded in real-world data, then the predictive analysis will go dive in this data and then find all the hidden signals, expose it, and this patient will be diagnosed. So let us forget about our current setting in pathology and look at how it is done in real life. So IMS Health combined the real-world data with predictive analysis to diagnose cases of rare diseases. So how they have done it? This is not your normal setting of people. Like, they got biostatisticians, they got data scientists, they got epidemiologists, clinical expertise. They got this team. This is our future. And if you look at how Sweden composed this conference, you can find, as we heard, talks, from George, from Philips, which I enjoyed. We have now different expertise coming to our conferences, who are traditionally, I've been involved in many organizing committee in many conferences before, and we always sit down in the room, get our scientists, pathologists, decide who's going to talk in this, who's going to talk on that. If you look at this conference now, this is the way the future is going to be. We're not going to have only scientists or pathologists in the same room. Forget about that. We're going to move from the current model. And this very conference is proof of that. So we're going to pioneering new methodologies and incorporate predictive analysis in healthcare and applying that in modern medicine. So we're going to have insights, new providers will combine efforts together to progress quickly. I can tell you the progression in this area is not going straight line. It's going to be exponential. It is not going to be definitely not straight line. Why is that? Because the advances in the normal IT or the infrastructure in general is much more advanced than medical science or health science. And we're going to benefit from that. Look at this real-world data. This is cancer patients. Usually 50% of cancer patients are not get diagnosed. It can take about decades for them to get picked up, or in a very later stage. So they designed two simple algorithms. The first algorithm, just from all these 500 plus, the IMS actually have one of the biggest real-world data in the world. They claim they have 500 million plus. So they designed a simple logarithm based on risk score. And that very simple logarithm, the first one, picked up 70,000 patients randomly based on that risk score. Then they applied a more sophisticated algorithm, that team that I showed in the previous slides. And that gave predictive value to increase the detection from 50% to 84%. So the algorithm gave 45% to confirmed already, and 39 on top of that, bring a total to 84 that potentially undiagnosed and candidate for screening. And this is only using big data. We have not even tapped into genomics, as as Leslie was explaining to us the other day. Just imagine 85 or 84 just by using big data, artificial intelligence. If you put the power of genomics on that, there is no way you're going to go wrong. So what, again, that does mean for patients? So in England, they have big study where they wanted to do what the patient come to the hospital, okay? Can go to emergency department, can go to pathology, can go to different department, cardiology. So they wanted to see, after all these trips made by different patients, have they been diagnosed or not? How well are we doing? How we can measure the outcome? So, what they have done, very interesting. In retrospective, they analyzed the last 5 years of data. And the outcome was unbelievable. The algorithm predicted 3 years ahead what's going to happen. Going retrospective 5 years, applied the algorithm, like I said, this patient going to happen such and such and such. This patient actually, 3 years after that, 90% of them was already known in the system. So that just shows you the power of the big data in analyzing that. Not only that algorithm that designed to test this hypothesis achieved that, they actually found something on the side, association, that they were not aware about it. They found that the number of patients get diagnosed by tertiary centers is different. Like if you look at the metropolitan or the tertiary centers, they actually performed much better than regional one because could be the level of expertise is different. So now that model will actually produce to the hospital admins, and they said they're going to look into it, and maybe they're going to use this model in the future to assign funding according to the needs, because they want everyone to catch up. What does it mean for payers? Simple, saving money. In New South Wales, 262 million lost over the last 6 years from mistakes that could be prevented. That big incentive for health department to go into that direction. I know we like the origami style. Payers also perhaps would be in the top chain. They're going to drive all these changes because it minimizes the cost and also better targeted diagnostic therapy and increase compliance with medications. Patient would be the first beneficiary of this. Payers need to understand how the dollar is going to get spent and how the drug is being used. So big data can tell them this drug performing much better than that drugs because the patient got better quickly. So payers can say, you know what, I'm going to fund this one, but not the other one. So that will actually reduce the unexpected hospitalization, the emergency room visits, and the physician visits. So payers actually will play a bigger role in this, and with the combination of genomic information, that will transform everything we're doing now. I'm just going to rush in the slide because I've been told I've got 2 minutes. So device maker also going to dive into that because it's a much better business to have a device for every single person than to have one in each hospital. So this model is very good incentive for them. And device maker will definitely embrace these coming changes. There was here a study was done, you know, the big study in England regarding the 100,000 patients they were doing the genome study on. I might just skip this slide and straight away go to the some of the examples. This is just example from the big data. They are now combining forces together to address things like familial hypercholesterolemia or hyperlipidemia. There is many examples in the next slide I wanted to show you. This study that started in England is screening 100,000 patients. So far they have done 50,000. They found in 20 novel candidate gene, and they assigned or recognized all the loss of function for these targeted genes. This is great news. George Institute in Sydney here, there is so many projects in global health that's been examples. I'm just showing you here, like, you know, that's already in practice. And the same, the ICANN School of Medicine. All these projects are real and life and going. So I'm just, wearable devices is very important. You got this one. This is actually measuring the metabolic for all the athletes and people in this industry. You can now measure your fat burning and tailor your diet to your style or to your actual metabolism. I just have to touch on this one quickly. There is now talking about diagnosing diabetes and cancer from just simple, like, chips that you can even mount in your mobile phone. So if you have these simple nanoparticles on your phone, you can detect diabetes and detects, like, the acetone, or if it detects toluene, that's a detection for cancer. You can detect your own disease on your own simple device.
Can you go to your conclusion?
Okay, all right, okay. This is just a slide, shows this is how it's done. This is the pattern for normal patient, this is for diabetic patients. Sweden, definitely had the right product. This software combined with LIS system we are using, and the music to my ear is the predictive model they can provide. So that's actually in line with what I presented. I would have loved to go a bit more, but during time limitation, I would like to thank you for the opportunity, and I'll leave you with that. Thank you so much.